We'll call the meeting order at 6:03. Mark, I just want you to know that hybrid meetings are not all that easy. They've been here since 5 o'clock setting up. So, but hopefully it'll get better. So.
I wouldn't think it will get better at town hall though.
Oh, it's gonna be a blast, because this is where we're gonna be having them. So, I've got call to order additions or deletions to the agenda from anybody?
Yep.
You got everybody lined up. You know everybody up there, right?
Rich?
Yep. Hello?
We need to, you said additions and deletions.
Yep, go ahead.
We need to know the WCSU rep, because our third rep is no longer a member of the board.
So when we appoint a board member, we wind up having to reorganize, so usually that's when we deal with that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll see if we appoint somebody tonight. There's somebody that just says Laura, and we thought it was Laura Sibilia, but she's here in person. Laura, can you just add your last name so we know, because we need that for our record keeping, please?
Oh, sure, will do.
Okay, thank you. Mark, are you all set? Any other additions or deletions? No. Kate, are you all good?
Yes, I'm all good.
Okay, and I believe we have a spot for Greg on the solar, and Greg is here for... Greg, you are here for the solar, and what else?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, Greg Frost.
Oh, yeah, I think I was here on, doing some capital. We were talking about some capital budgets.
Correct, Tammy had asked a question, so I asked if you could be here for that. So I guess we'll do that under principal's report. And Lori, I don't see where Bill put in a financial review.
Yeah, that's probably my fault. I didn't get it to him in time. So, but I'm here to answer any questions if you want to put something on the agenda.
Okay, we'll do that in the beginning of new business, so you can go visit the people in the West River Valley.
Thank you.
Okay, so that cover it? Oh, go ahead, Laura.
So can you just, because it wasn't on the agenda, how are we going to handle, can you just, for all of us who are here, how are we dealing with the first stuff that we got there? Are we going to just take that up at the next meeting as well?
What's that?
The financial stuff?
No, we'll do it today.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to vote on anything. She's just going to give us an update.
Yeah, okay.
So we asked that she could give us an update at the second meeting of every month.
Right, okay.
So we just got to make sure it gets into the onto the agenda. And I think in your packet there's a whole bunch of financial stuff, anyways, in really tiny little letters and numbers, so it's hard to read. So if there's nothing else, I have the consent agenda, the minutes of the August 16th, 2021 meeting, which is hard to believe that was our last meeting. Can somebody make a motion in a second to approve it?
So moved.
I have a motion by Laura. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dwight. I didn't bring a mask. I'm sorry. I didn't think we needed it. All those in, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
It's consent agenda. Do we need a motion?
Oh, we did. No. Yeah, consent and correspondence. I don't have any correspondence. Do you?
Nope.
Okay. Is there any objections? I did have one correction to the minutes. It wasn't Marlboro School that voted. It wasn't the board that voted for the Marlboro School to do what you had to do according to CDC doctrine. It was actually Dover. It's on
Page 2.
Do you know where it is easily, Kate?
Yes. Yeah, it's on page 2. They talked about Marlboro School. Hang on, I've got it.
Because it was part of the motion, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you just do a search in the document by Marlboro, you'll find it.
Yeah, I got it in paper, but I think, thank you, Peter, there's, it said Marlboro School instead of River Valleys. Can you just correct that for us?
Fourth paragraph up from the bottom here on page 2.
Ms. Sebelia moved that the board mandates that Marlboro School District adhere, and it should be the River Valleys, okay?
I got it.
Okay, so is everybody okay? Yep, go ahead, Kate.
I also had one edit too. It says the next meeting is September 29th, and it is today, September 20th. And that was at the very end of the document.
No, you know what's the 29th is the Wyndham Central meeting.
Okay, it just, yeah,
So
to me, I read it like it was our meeting. So.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else notice anything, Mark? You good? Laura, you good, and Dwight?
I'm good.
Okay, so since it's on the consent agenda, if nobody has any issues with those changes, then we'll just accept the minutes of the August 16th and there is no correspondence. Members of the public, I think I've got, is there any public? Is there anybody who'd like to speak as a member of the public? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on to members of the staff. I see a couple staff members there. Does anybody from the staff want to talk? Jen, Tricia. I don't know who else is up there. Tammy, you're going to talk under principals? Okay. Sorry, guys. Moving on. If there's something, just let me know. Is there somebody missing in the corner?
No.
Okay.
Chad is there.
Chad's here for board. Before we do the letter of interest for open board positions, I'd like to, if everybody's okay, I'm going to skip over to a financial review by Lori Garland. Lori, you want to just run us through that real quick? And I was kind of excited about your projections.
Sure, happy to. So you have two packets which are fairly large. There's a fiscal year 21 that of course is unaudited at this point, although our audit is happening the week after next.
Richard.
So we're in the middle of prepping for that right now. And then there's fiscal year 22.
Lori, hang on one sec.
Sure.
Go ahead,
So,
Lori.
I'm just wondering if this is, if Lori has the ability to show her screen.
No.
Okay, and so where other people could find this would be with the minutes?
Sure.
Where would somebody find it now?
They're at meetingdocs.rvusd.net.
Okay, great.
Yeah, whatever.
Mark, can you, Mr. Chair, can Mark drop that in the chat, please? This is the chat. Can people see
No,
the chat?
has to be disconnected.
Is it disabled?
So Matt will take care of it for tomorrow. Can you do that for us, Matt?
Send out a link. Is that what you want?
Yeah. Have the link available so people can.
Mark,
Yeah.
would you send me the link, bud, and I'll get it out?
It's the same link as it has been for the last year.
Okay.
Do you know what it is, or do you need it?
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
It was all part of the board packet, I believe.
So,
Yeah, but people don't,
Right.
can we
Yes.
not bounce around? Can we,
Yeah.
this is really confusing. Can we, the people that are from the public don't know where to get it, so that's one. This young lady right here, if she wasn't here, how would she get it?
The website. I usually go through the WCSU website, and then there's in it board packets, there's board, not agenda, there's another section, board documents.
Board documents?
And it'll say the date and RVUSD meeting, date, board documents.
so maybe in the
So
future,
I looked at all this earlier today on the website.
maybe in the future with the agenda,
Well, it is on the agenda, isn't it?
is the link to that, to
Yep.
the board documents? There it is. Okay, then we're good. Then we're
Okay.
fine.
So
Moving on.
anyways,
Thanks,
Mark,
Rich.
don't worry about sending Matt anything. Okay, Lori, I'm sorry. Go ahead and move forward.
Great. Okay, so there were two pieces to the financials of the fiscal year 21, wrapping it up, unaudited. projections of how River Valley's ended the year, and then fiscal year 22. I'll talk more about fiscal year 21 at this point, because fiscal year 22 is honestly just getting up and rolling, and you know, you can take a look at it, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer those next time. But fiscal year 21, the general fund ended with a potential surplus of $344,000. I'm going to round numbers here. So that is good news. A lot of that had to do with COVID, of course, and not spending money on many different things. It was not just one particular item. For example, a large item that wasn't spent was the academic support teacher. They were not able to get one for Dover, so that was, you know, roughly $80,000 of that 344. There was also some other items that were pushed off into grant funding, which was allowed this year under these particular grants. Normally that would be called supplanting, but the ESSER funds and the CRF funds, there was not a supplanting rule. So very wisely, the administrators, you know, spent money through the grants versus spending money in your general fund. So that's why there's a large balance there for this year. And then, so what I'm looking at right now, so that you all have this in front of you, is the summary fiscal year 21 fund balances. I won't go through the detail. Again, happy to answer any questions as you go through the detail and make notes. Particular programs, you know, where there were savings and what that was for. So as you can see, there was about $100,000 of CRF LEA grant funds that were spent, and we've collected all of that money. Spent $253,000 for the HVAC, so a significant number there that all was grant funded. ESSER 2, we haven't spent much money there yet, but there will be some money being spent there pretty soon. The food program actually ended with a fund balance. So this is really interesting because I expected it to be a deficit, to be honest, but the federal government changed the rate that the food was being reimbursed by. And so that really helped all the districts in the SU to come out either right on their budget or having a little bit of a surplus. So just a word of caution about this surplus. This surplus has to be now used for the food program. So can't be transferred back into the general fund or into reserves or anything like that. It has to be used for food program. The reserve fund, ended the year after using $200,000 of the fund balance to offset the tax rate, ended with $222,000. Then the special revenue and miscellaneous grants ended with a balance of $48,000, and capital projects, there wasn't any money spent there. So those are the major funds that are used. And so really what you're looking at to start fiscal year 22 is, once the auditors come in and audit that general fund balance, we'll move that to reserves, right? So that's where you're always replenishing that. So basically you're looking at, right now, $566,000 in the reserve fund. Now, what I didn't do, which I don't have right in front of me, is, and I can't remember off the top of my head, if we used money from the reserve to buy down the tax rate in fiscal year 22. So, of course, whatever balance that was would come off of that $566,000.
So Lori,
Yes.
when we start talking budgets, how long, I know last time we tried to get an audit, we were forever. trying to get it because of whatever reason. Do you think we'll have an audited number to play with? Because that really kind of played havoc with us trying to make the budget.
Yeah, it sure did. I suspect that like I said, we're starting our audit the end of September, and last year we didn't start it until November. And then there were problems with, Dover's audit coming in. So I suspect that we will have a pretty good solid number. Will we have a final audit by the time the first draft comes out? Probably not. Maybe by the time the second draft comes out.
Okay. So then it's not really worth getting too hung up on these numbers yet.
No, it just gives you an idea of, where River Valley's ended for the year, and, which is pretty good news for you, as far as starting your fiscal year 23 budget. So, as things move and change, I'll be reporting on that out to you.
Okay, so Lori, thank you, and Greg and Tammy and Matt and Bill for really looking after the numbers. It could have been a really catastrophic year, so I really appreciate that. Are there any questions for Lori, remembering that these aren't real numbers, these are just numbers and they are subject to change? Go ahead, Laura.
So not for this meeting, but it would be great to know, the ESSER funds, we had a discussion about those in the legislature about, whether those were needed for, to help with, what had happened with students and staff, or whether they were just going to be used, to offset budgets. And so what would be helpful to understand a little bit better, I think, is what unexpected outside of the HVAC costs we had, and when we are thinking about budgeting. Sorry, Tammy, I'm looking at Matt because I can see him, but I'm looking at you too. When we are thinking about next year's budget, I have to imagine that we have remediation costs for kids, for all of our kids, to some extent.
Yeah, and we've authorized some of those funds.
Okay.
That was part of Matt and Tammy are looking at a vacation school camp.
Yeah, okay.
And, like similar to the summer camp, and we actually said that was going to be spent with ESSER, and there was a couple other topics.
Okay, so I apologize then. I may have missed that, but it's something that I will be interested in when we get back.
Go ahead, Lori.
Laura, at the WCSU meeting, I'm going to be reporting out on how the ESSER funds are being used actually, and how they meet the criteria. So this is the criteria that the federal government, passed down through the AOE. There's different categories, learning loss is one of them. I'm going to be reporting out as an SU and also as a district how the money is being spent. So I think that information that you're looking for will come from there, and of course we can dig in further if you'd like.
Okay, so that'll be really instructive, that report. So I don't actually always know where to get the WCSU. Do we always get the WCSU docs? I don't think we do. Do we always get them?
Yeah, he sends them out with the
All right, then that's where it'll be, and I'll find it and I'll look at it, and all my questions will be answered. Thank you, Reg.
Laura?
Who's asking?
Hello, Laura. This is Greg Frost. I can just tell you that from from my perspective, a director of ops perspective, I know that like a lot of ESSER money was dealt with your air purifiers, right. A lot of the safety response, the PPE, the masks, the gloves, the disinfectants. I know a lot of that was all covered with ESSER money. I know that there have been a couple of other little projects that we've gotten in there that are district-wide things that we're trying to roll out, which were like, Matt recently needed classroom little stick vacuums because the kids are eating in the classrooms and ruining the carpets. And so just to try to be able to clean up right then and there rather than have stuff sit. So we recently got more of those for the schools, and we're instituting some some new trash cans that will be in all the elementaries, and the high school that would be nice, new, labeled, recycle, compost, trash, that I'm really hoping that works to expedite things and make it easier for kids to follow some of these statewide initiatives we're trying to follow. So just kind of some of the little things that I know of. I'm sure that there is a lot more that the principals have all done. I just thought I'd share the little bit I had.
But Lori, that shows in this, because that's a CRF HVAC of 253, 205, and the CRF LEA grant of 100. That's kind of like the first round of money. And now we got the ESSER money, which we're spending currently. And then we're going to have some money that we're going to be able to put away for the following budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You are absolutely correct, yes.
So it's just the CRF grant was the stuff that did all the work on the HVACs, and we should be all set with HVAC. Now we should just be in maintenance, right, Greg?
There's still some outstanding stuff. A lot of the HVAC stuff, and I don't know for sure. I mean, I think for the most part, Dover and Wardsboro are pretty much in maintenance. But I know as a district, there's still some maintenance to be done. I think there might still be a couple of units in Dover that if we can get some more money, we would do. In essence, it was like, hey, get X number of classrooms done so that we can get kids in the buildings, so that there might be some small spaces or whatever that could still use some attention. But in general, yes.
Well, so if there is, then let's get on that so that we don't, I mean, I don't know where we stand, but if there is, let's make sure that gets taken care of.
There was an email, I sent an email to Alex Rowe this morning, actually, looking for an update because there is actually more IAQ money that is supposed to be released. And as a district, we have about $285,000 in projects just sitting there waiting, shovel ready to go, that we've already laid out with Alliance to do. And I know one of them is a new unit ventilator for one of the rooms in Dover. And so as soon as we get the approval of that money will come through, we're ready to go on those projects. So
let me finish one thing before I lose the thought. The other thing, Greg and Lori and Matt and Tammy, I know we bought some like small air. Can you hear okay, Tammy? Okay. I know we bought some smaller air purifiers to use in the beginning of school last year because it didn't look like we were going to get done till sometime in the spring. Are those units still around, and are those something that we can use in these other spaces, or are we using them? And what happens when we get all the system up and running? What do we do with those?
I would recommend you continue to use them.
Okay.
Because you're exchanging air, those are actually really taking particles out of the air. So, I mean, as long as we have them, at our disposal, we would be crazy to not just continue to use them.
So is that something we need more of, or do we have enough of those to cover all the rooms that we have in the square footage? Or did we just get them for the major classrooms and ignore some of the other areas?
I think go ahead.
At Wardsboro, we're shy maybe 2 or 3 units, but they've been running since the week before school started.
Okay.
They do require filters that need to get changed. They say every year, but it's actually more often than that. We check them, and when they look dirty, then we change them out. So that would be another way that we did spend the ESSER money, was buying the purifiers and the filters that we can change.
Okay, Lori Garland, were you gonna say something too?
No.
Oh, you turned yellow for a second, so. Okay, and then before I give it over to Laura, one other thing, the bus purifiers. I know that became a real issue because you didn't want to put sheet metal screws in a bus roof and bounce them over our dirt roads and have them fall on people's heads. What's happened with them, and where do we stand with all that? And I don't know if that's a Matt, Tammy, or a Greg or Lori question.
I can help with that. So they're still sitting in storage at this point. I think my next move, and I've talked to a local electrician about it, is we're going to look into actually tying them into the light systems and mounting them in the gymnasiums in a way that will obviously be very safe, but this way, as in the future, right, going forward, when kids are in there running around and breathing heavy, we're able to have purifiers in there that are purifying a lot of air quickly. So that was just something that we thought, Bill and I were tossing around as like a way to use something that that an investment has been made in, and to get them used. We had a pretty crazy summer and just haven't had a chance to catch up with them on it. But my goal is to have those at some point, have some brackets made, mount the brackets and then mount those to that and then tie them to the lights. So that way when the lights turn on, the purifiers turn on.
Okay.
It's just a matter of figuring out how that works. I'm sure they're wired probably DC, and so we might have to get a little crazy as far as getting the wiring sorted out, but I figured if I can meet up with an electrician, have him take a look at it, and he can tell us what we can do.
Okay, thank you, Greg. So, Mark, Laura was next, and then you can go after Laura, okay?
So my comment is for you, Richard. I just want you to know what the nature of my concern is and what I want to make sure we're clear on. So there was definitely a sense in the legislature that the school districts just had a lot of money. And that was not necessarily a sense matched that there was a lot of need. And so I want to make sure I understand and so that can lead to some poor decision making at the state level. So that's the nature of my questions, just making sure that I understand the needs in our district and in our two buildings with our staff and our students and what we've had to utilize those funds for. I just wanted to make sure I was clear with you.
Cool.
I'm good, thank you. And one other thing, love your shirt, Greg. Very nice.
What's he got for sure?
Rebels are resilient.
Oh,
I like
cool.
it.
Mark, you were next, I think, and then Lori, or did you want to respond to Laura?
I would just like to respond to Laura. I appreciate her asking those questions because I was asking myself the same question when we started to receive so much money in funds. However, what I'm finding is this year is actually, the first year was the reaction, exactly what Greg was saying. It was a lot of, preventative cleaning supplies, that type of thing, PPE. This year, we're seeing, and I think the administrators probably could speak to this so much better than myself, is the learning loss and that type of thing is what we're seeing for this year. And that's where the money, we actually have our ESSER 1 money will be completely spent out pretty quickly here. Our ESSER 2 money has all been requested from the administrators, and a lot of it is going into that learning loss. So, I just wanted to respond that from a standpoint of extra money, it's really happening now.
So, and Lori, you're going to talk about it at the meeting next week, right? The Wyndham Central meeting too. Be there or be square. Mark, you're next.
At the bus air purifiers, this was the first I heard anything about sheet metal screws possibly falling on kids. Can Greg explain why we didn't install them?
Yeah, we had several discussions about that at board meetings, Mark, if you don't remember, that we couldn't find anybody to install them because they were all concerned about the way they were supposed to be mounted according to the manufacturer, and that was why they hadn't been installed. I don't remember the exact meetings, but do you guys remember that, or am I just dreaming that?
No, you're not dreaming.
No, I know you talked about it several times, Greg.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. When they were sold to the district, it was prior to my starting. When they were sold to you all, it was like, oh yeah, these things go in real easy, no problem, couple hours. And then it was, oh no, it's a minimum 8-hour install. And all it really was you were hanging a bracket up into the, into the ribs of, you were hanging a bracket up into the ribs of a bus, and then hanging a 70-pound air purifier on it. And none of the people that we were dealing with anyways were comfortable installing such a thing. And Connecticut DOT actually outlawed the use of it. So we couldn't find anyone to put them in, and there was a lot of pushback from people saying, listen, this is dangerous, this is unsafe to do this. So we backed off.
All right, thank you. I don't remember that at all, but coming up at a board meeting, but.
That's weird, Mark, that you don't, I do. So, thank you. So it sounds so like, Greg, we got an idea, and that was a good example of how things, when they aren't attached, they fall. So thank you for the visual too. Are we all set? Everybody good with Lori? So we can let Lori lead. Lori, I think you can go to West River. Drive safely.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, Greg, you got a minute or you got to go to West River? Or can you hang out for a minute?
I got time. I don't think West River starts until 7.
Okay. I'd like to, because I think we've got, we had 3 people express interest for the board. And are they on tonight on video?
Let's see, here's the list.
There's 2 people. Is there a third? So we have, pardon?
I just was putting the list up so you could see it.
Oh,
It's
so
kinda small.
everybody knows that Rick moved out west. I guess they've settled in, they've got a place to live, and things are going well for them. I wish him the best, but I'm ticked off that he left me all by myself. No. So we advertised and we had 3 letters of interest. And this is just how they're in the packet. We have Aaron from West Wardsboro. I'm interested in board member position at the River Valley Unified School District in Wardsboro, Vermont. I'm currently a teacher at Leland and Gray Middle School and High School, and one of my children is currently enrolled in Wardsboro Elementary School. I'm also a resident of Wardsboro. My experience in education is diverse. I taught at a large suburban high school outside of Philadelphia for 13 years, as well as at a small private school in rural central Pennsylvania. This is my 2nd year teaching in Vermont. But regardless of the location, I've learned that fostering positive relationships with members of the learning community is a key to a successful learning environment. I feel that my experience in education will be a beneficial addition to the school board at River Valley. I would like to thank you for considering me for this position and assure you that I will bring the skills and knowledge needed to support the students, families, and educators in your school district. Sincerely, Aaron Dringus. Did I get that right? Okay, so Aaron's on there. He just gave us a thumbs up. Aaron, do you, I read your letter. I don't know if I did you justice, sir, but do you have any comments you'd like to make or anything else that you'd like to throw out there?
I also did some administrative work at Leland and Gray.
Okay. I would like to open it up for questions from the board. Does anybody from the board have any questions for Aaron?
Well, it sounds like Aaron's having a hard time speaking, Richard.
Aaron, are you having a hard time speaking?
This whole.
Yeah.
It just said that my internet is unstable, but I think I'm okay.
If he shuts off his,
Shut off your video, sir.
Okay.
We have a lot better luck with that. We don't need to. Yeah, so Aaron, go ahead because I cut you off, so I'm sorry about that. You talked,
okay.
You said you had some administrative experience you were doing.
And that's all we heard.
Administration at the school, and that's all we heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this past spring semester, I was the remote academy principal at Leland and Gray. And I also ran the recovery camp of the summer of 21 at Leland and Gray for kids who didn't pass some of their courses last year.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to open it up first to board members. Does any board members have any questions for Aaron? Mark, you gotta have a question, buddy. No? Kate?
Aaron, how do you feel about the budgeting process?
The budgeting process, I imagine, it's going to be, I mean, I haven't worked on a board. I mean, I'm on the standards board at Leland, or for Leland Central now. So since I'm also doing multiple, yeah, so as far as budgeting, I think it's one of those things that we just work together and try to find the best way to spend the funds to better suit the families, students, and the community at large, really. So I think it's a process and something that has to be democratic in nature.
Well, thank you.
Mark, I just put my glasses on so I can see you better. Did you have something? Did I cut you off too?
I didn't, but actually now I do have a question, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead and then we'll let Laura go.
Aaron, being a teacher at Leland and Gray and a member of the union, do you think you might have any conflicts working towards contract negotiations, kind of being on both sides of the table there?
So Mark, I'm going to cut you off there because in the past we've had union members and teachers on the board, both on Wyndham Central and on the school board. And I don't think we're allowed to ask that. A conflict of interest, the person has to determine if they have a conflict. So I don't know if that question is really legal. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just pass over that. He admitted that he's a teacher and he's a staff member. I don't think if member of a union we can ask that. And I don't want to know. Please don't answer that, Aaron. So I think we have to skip that, Mark.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Laura, you were going?
Yep.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Is there anybody on the board that disagrees with me? Because remember, I don't make the rules. I
do not
run the
disagree
meeting.
with you, and I really do not want Aaron to answer that question.
Okay. Kate, are you okay with that, my decision?
Yes.
And you're okay with it, Dwayne? Mark, are you okay with it? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
Great. Aaron, thank you for expressing your interest. I think it's really exciting that we have so many candidates tonight. Makes me feel really happy. I have two questions, and I guess I'll ask all of the candidates this. You know, how do you see your role as a board member related to the administration and your role as a board member related to members of the public?
I see myself, I mean, my relationship as a board, if I became a board member, with the public, I mean, I think I'd be able to share my opinions as both a teacher and as a member of the community. So I think it's nice to be on kind of both sides. Yeah, I guess it would be an interesting point of view that as an employee of WCSU and a member of, and I'm a parent as well, since I have one son that's currently at Woodsboro and another one who's going to be in a couple of years. So, I mean, I'll be on both sides of the fence, really, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Are you good, Laura?
Yeah.
Dwight? Mark, do you have anything else? Aaron, I have a couple quick ones for you. So as you know, I can't remember Rick's term, but I think Dwight just got reelected, and I think Rick had run last year. So I think that you would be appointed to the next regular special meeting, and I don't see any special meetings coming up, but the next regular meeting will be sometime between February and May, depending on what happens. So would it be your plan, if appointed, that you would run for that position?
Sure, I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think I have anything else going on, really, besides teaching and coaching and mentoring.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask you a situational type question, okay?
Okay.
So there's 6 members on the board, 3 from Wardsboro and 3 from Dover. So we all sit down and we hash out something. It could be anything you want it to be. It could be an educational issue. It could be a transportation issue. It could be whether or not we're going to put a cell tower on school property. And 5 of the board members vote to do something, and you're the only one that votes against it. You are dead set against it, and you don't want it to happen, and you basically it's kind of over my dead body, this will happen. So after the vote's taken, what do you do?
Well, I believe in, standing up for what I believe. So I would always I would go with whatever the board votes on, because that's the idea of having a board, so you have a democratic process. But, I would always state my mind and vote that way.
Yeah, I'm saying the vote's over. You already voted against it. Everybody else voted for it. And the newspaper calls you up and says, hey, we want to talk to you because we like the way you voted.
I probably wouldn't comment on it because that's just, I think my vote says what I believe.
Okay. And then my last question, have you ever served, you've got some experience in education and stuff. Have you ever served on any kind of boards?
No.
Okay. Very good. You guys, is everybody all set with Aaron? Aaron, did you feel like we put you on the hot seat, dude?
No more than every day at school in front of, all the high school and middle schools.
Okay, well, thank you, Aaron, for your, and I gotta really echo what Laura said. This is the first time in 20 some odd years that we've had more than one person to actually discuss, so it was kind of new for us too, so we really appreciate you applying.
Well, thank you for spending some time talking.
Okay, I believe, just so everybody knows, what we'll do is we'll have this discussion with the board, with the prospective members, and then the board will go into executive session at the end of the meeting so we don't have to kick everybody out, and then we'll make a decision, and we will check with the person we choose, if we choose anybody, just to make sure they still want to do it before we make an announcement. So, Aaron, good luck, and I appreciate you coming on. The next one is Chad Starro, and Chad sent us an email to Bill, which is in your packet. Mr. Antone, members of the RVUSD Board, citizens of Wardsboro, please allow this letter to serve as my expression of interest for consideration to fill the board seat vacated by Mr. Rick Thorpe. I wish to serve my community. Education is something I value tremendously. Serving on our community school board would allow me to blend these two tenets harmoniously and with purpose. As a ski instructor, my focus has been teaching children, having earned the Children's Specialist designation. PSIA, Professional Ski Instructors of America, has done an amazing job educating instructors to understand children in ways that our elementary teachers and administrators are trained. This is important for me in approaching the school board seat, in that I carry an understanding of many of the needs that our children's educators wish to have met. Having managed a family-owned small business, I recognize that fiscal responsibility is a must. Without this ideal, those who we serve will surely fail. And in order to grow, inclusion is tantamount to success. I am very proud of the educators that I received. I'm very proud of the education I received in my youth. The foundation it provided has encouraged me to continue learning each and every day. In this regard, I feel a kinship to the RVUSD mission to educate our students to become inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring global citizens. And with that in mind, I recognize the necessary learning ahead of me, the operation of the board itself, should I earn this school board seat. Respectfully submitted, Chad M. Starro. Chad, I think, is up there somewhere.
Yes.
Chad, nice letter, thank you. Any comments, anything that I butchered on you, unfortunately, or are you good
No,
with?
I think you read it well. Thank you very much for bringing that out loud to the folks who do not have that in their packet.
So anything you'd like to add, sir?
I'm really ready for questions from the board, just as they presented to Aaron. Would be, I think, a great opportunity to talk more about me and my opportunity to serve the board and the school district best.
Okay. So are there any questions from the board? Laura?
Chad, thank you for putting your name forward. Again, very excited to see such great interest. And I will ask you the same question. If you are appointed to the board, how do you see your relationship as a board member interacting with our administration? And how do you see your position as a board member interacting with members of the public?
Definitely, we sit very much on the fence post between the two. There are concerns that will be administratively driven and concerns that will be community driven. And, our goal is to do the best we can to satisfy everyone. However, we know that that is not always the reality. And I think this sort of dovetails, if you will, into Mr. Warner's question about making the decisions. As you have been into executive segments in the past, you have to make decisions, and they're not always unanimous. And when they're not, we will have the opportunity. I think, just as Aaron has said, we speak and we make our votes. But once that vote is tabulated, we need to present a united front on the issue. So in that regard, it is walking that fine line and supporting both the administrators and the community. And how we come to answer on those issues is how we need to move forward. I think it's very important and that we understand both sides and be able to discuss thoroughly to come to a resolution. And recognize that our actions are not in the interest of self, but they're in the interest of the best interests of our community, which is, our students, their parents, and then of course the teachers, staff, and administrators of each school.
Are you good one?
Chad, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Mark or Kate? Oh, go ahead, Kate.
So in the spirit of keeping this, even and equal, I'm going to go pose kind of the same question to Chad that I did to Aaron. Chad, what's your experience and feelings about, dealing with budget and things like that?
My experience is more on the buying side. Again, that's one of the reasons I noted the importance of managing a small family-run business. I was handed a budget by the ownership and saying, this is where we need to spend. And so my job as a manager at that time was really identifying the most important aspects of that budget, where we could spend money, where we could claw back, things that may need to be deferred or even omitted entirely. So in creating the budget, I definitely would look for an awful lot of help. I really must echo, I think Aaron did a great job in answering that, it's about coming to the group together, working together to make sure that we're putting money in the right spots. And again, it's a selfless action. It's what's going to be in the best interest of our schools going forward. And there are times that we will lose out on our individual notion of what we want. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve the community and that community at large. So I think there's a lot of experience in knowing some of the board members. And again, I look to learn an awful lot should I be, it should be enough to earn the board seat as well.
Thank you.
All set, Kate?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to ask you a question, but you already answered it. So, are you willing to run for a board seat again with the understanding that, and you got a little advantage because we'd already asked Aaron the questions, but you'll have to run for the board position. It may require you to take out a ballot. It may require you to go see people to get signatures. It may require you to go to the Wardsboro meeting and have somebody nominate you. Are you up for all that?
I am. I've been pleased to, many years ago, I was brought into the fold and served as Justice of the Peace. I had to leave that position because our family had moved out of town. But finding myself in a position to acquire signatures and be known better than I am now within our community is certainly not anything I would push me away from running for the full seat when the term expires.
No, it's not when the term expires. It's at the next regular meeting you have to run. So even though the term, the seat expires down the road somewhere, you only serve until the next meeting.
Right.
Okay. It gets confusing for people, believe me. Thank you. Is everybody all good? Mark, did you come up with anything? You did. Go ahead. No. Oh, you're good. Okay. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. And again, I want to echo Laura. I appreciate that, more than one person's putting themselves out there. School board's a hard position. It's, it's definitely, I had a really good friend who was a selectman for a while, and he said, yes, select board is easy. We talk about people's roads, but school board, you talk about what should be the most important thing to every parent and every grandparent and every citizen is, our future and our children. So it's never a really easy position. We do have a third person. I was going to ask Mark or Kate. Her phone number's on the bottom. I don't want to read it out loud, but would one of you guys mind calling her and seeing if she could join us? And I'm going to take...
I'm going to go 21st century and I'm just going to text her, okay?
Okay, well, I don't understand that, so...
He's starting to learn,
When you
Kate.
flip your
We'll
phone
get him
open,
there.
Kate, will you be able to push the buttons, okay?
I can push the button fine.
Okay. If you could just ask her to let us know if she can make it. I thought that they were told that we would discuss it tonight, so I don't know if she wasn't expecting to have to answer questions or talk to us. While that's happening, if it's okay, I'm going to bounce over and because Greg is here and Tammy had asked about some capital expenditures on the building, so we can get Greg out of here. Tammy, do you want to touch on your capital expenditures first?
Sure. Greg and I were going to meet later this week regarding this, but I just wanted to get the ball rolling a little bit and start thinking about this. I think what we have on the docket for FY22 is just our control panel. So if Greg is on and could speak to that, am I correct, Greg?
Yeah, the fire alarm panel,
Yeah. Which you were mentioning, those are getting quite costly.
They're not getting cheaper.
Sure are not. I reached out, so we ended up using King's Electric to do all the fire alarm testing this year. There's some guys I had used, they're really good, and they're just, the people I trust to do a good job. So we brought them in, so I reached out to them today. I didn't realize that we were doing it. It's kind of my fault for not being on top of it, or I should have had him take a look at it this summer. But I reached out to John, I don't even know his last name, from Mammoth Fire Alarms. He's going to come up, walk through it. He can connect to it, download all the information, tell us exactly what size panel we need to replicate the one that's there, and then we'll use that to create an RFP to put out. Tammy and I were emailing today talking about trying to push that for, just something that we would try to have done by this year, to give us some time, knowing how booked out everybody is. I know most electricians are out 3, 4, 5 months, so. If we push for a shorter time frame, we're probably going to pay more because they're going to know they've got to come do it on overtime. So I'd rather try to push it out a little bit more and try to get the best price possible.
But just as a safety thing, the panel works. It's just we were going to upgrade it.
It's just dated, yeah. It's just really old. You couldn't add anything to it. It's functioning as it is, but it's not ideal to be running a panel that old.
Okay. So, Tammy, it's in the capital budget. You have permission to do it. It's just we got to follow, we do have a bid policy. So just, it's either if it's so much the state policy falls into place. And I think that we did away, Mark, the policy guru. We don't have a bid policy right now, do we? Because I thought we got rid of it and just followed the state policy.
No, we do. It's 5,000 and higher.
Okay, so she has to get pricing or competitive bids?
I will review the policy, before the end of the meeting.
Well, you know what? You don't have to. Tammy, just review the policy and just make sure you follow the policy. If you're doing a bid, the bid before it goes out, the bid needs to be approved by the board. If it just requires competitive pricing to call 3 people, just make sure you have it so that when I ask you that, you show it to me. So we should be okay. So I think Greg, you and Tammy are good to move that forward.
Awesome.
Matt, did you have any capital stuff?
No, the only capital item for Dover this year was the UV water filter. Does that make sense to you, Brett?
Yeah, we've got to talk to, I haven't met your water guy yet, but yeah, we should talk to him about that. The H2O guy, the Ian Trout, he was talking to me about those too, and he's I'm not sure what he's trying to do with those. They were in almost every budget this year, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's just the filters that need to be changed, or if he's saying people need to change the units altogether, but I believe yours are fairly new, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where that comes from.
As a person that fought UV systems at some of my water systems, I think you have to replace the bulbs every year. That was one of the things that made UV systems very expensive. So that's why I like chlorine, because you don't have to replace the chlorine only if you're using it.
Right.
But I think that's the issue, and I think the bulbs are expensive, and Mark may have some input for us.
I've got a capital question, not about that though.
You got a what, Mark?
I've got a question about capital expenses, but not about the.
Oh, okay. So anyways, you guys will find out and you'll let us know.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Greg. I see Megan's on the phone, so let's finish this topic. Mark, go ahead. Did you had a question on capital?
Yeah, this sort of skips ahead to the principal's report, but given the new leaks at Dover, I know we've been told numerous times that once this roof starts going, it's time, but are we now looking at actually doing that in the near future?
So I don't know, Greg and Matt, are you guys ready to talk about that, or should you get something for us for the next meeting?
I would need a little time. How about you, Greg?
Yeah. The only leak I know of was the one from the hole that we recently had a unit ventilator put in last year, and we just had that fixed up by Brattleboro roofing. If we're having other ones, then I don't know about them, and I would definitely need some time to catch up with Dave and Helen and that.
There was another small leak, nothing catastrophic, nothing major.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
then I'll swing by this week and we'll take a look.
So Mark, they'll check into it. We'll talk about it at the next meeting if there's, and they'll update us on that. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, Peter, can you just make sure there's a note in the minutes that Greg will send us something for Matt and Tammy to present at the next meeting? You okay?
What would it be?
I'm sorry, Peter, try that again.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just salute next time.
Jeez, come on now,
There
you're
you
taking
go.
it too far.
Okay. Kate, thank you. It looks like Megan Carroll's joined us. I don't know if she's bouncing around somewhere. Is she there? Hi, Megan.
Oh, there she is.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you? So Megan, I'm gonna read the letter that you wrote, and then we'll give you a chance to, add anything you'd like to, and then some board members may have some questions for you. And
I do want to just let you know our internet at home has been real choppy today, so
Yep.
you're kind of coming in and out.
So try this, shut off the video and just do the audio. And that worked for another candidate. Okay, if you have trouble hearing, I'm just going to read your letter. If you have trouble with the questions, just let us know. So Megan submitted a letter to the River Valley's Unified School District. My name is Megan Carroll, and with two of my children attending the Wardsboro Elementary School, I am a highly active member of the school community. I would love to work with the excellent members and leaders of the school board to ensure that all the children within our communities have the best possible education and educational experience during these formative years. Currently, I'm working at the Mount Snow Child Care as a lead teacher, and am helping shape and form the minds of the children in my care. While I am not a teacher within the school system, I believe my position as a teacher can bring in a fresh perspective. I've taken multiple classes on childhood development as well as early childhood education for children up to the age of 8. In the past, I've worked for the Abbey Food Group and worked out of the Wardsboro Elementary School. This position gave me the ability to create a relationship with the teachers at the school, as well as give me an inside understanding as to how the school operates. If elected to the open seat on the River Valley's Unified School District Board, I would work with the other board members to focus on the continuity of support and operation of the schools district as has been, as well as creating a bridge of trust within our community to help ensure proper funding to support the Wardsboro and Dover schools operating budget, as well as any initiatives going forward. We as a community and a board must be constantly evaluating and reevaluating our circumstances and what works best for all of our children in our communities. I believe that in order for our schools to become leaders in education, that we must further their development of technology, physical attributes, and we absolutely must be continuing to support our teachers. Please consider this my official letter of interest for the open seat on the school board. Thank you for your time and consideration. Megan, just so you know, and you missed it earlier, we have a total of 3 people, which we really appreciate. This is the first time in my career of 20 some odd years that we've had more than one person apply for an open position. So thank you for that. The other thing we just explained, and I'm not sure if you're aware of, I think I might have met you at some place over the summer and you asked me about this. You get appointed by the board to the next regular special election, and then you would have to run for the balance of that seat. So like next year, there'll be 2 people up for election in Wardsboro. So with that, I hope I did justice to your letter. And is there anything you would like to add that isn't in the letter?
There's nothing I would like to add right now at this moment. Again, my internet is still being really choppy, and I'm having a difficult time I caught majority of what you're saying, but you're still kind of like glitching in and out here.
Okay, because you're coming in really clear, so I don't know if it's this wonderful mask or if it's the speakers, but you're coming in really well, so I'm sorry about that. Basically, I just read your letter, and I asked if there was anything else you'd like to add on top of what we did with the letter.
I don't know that there's anything else I'd like to add, just the fact that, if elected, I really do look forward to being a part of the school board if elected, or however it works. I am also on the school club. I'm the president of the school club at the Wardsboro Elementary School. So I also have like a good understanding of like how, meetings are run and all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Kate, you have a question?
Yes, I'm going to pose the same question to Megan that I posed to both Aaron and Chad as well. Megan, how do you feel about working with the budgetary process with the school board and all of that?
Can you say that one more time, Kate? I'm really sorry.
No worries. Wardsboro Internet is magical. We love the broadband committee.
That's a word for it.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the budgetary process and, learning about all of that as part of the school board?
I'm sorry, Kate. I heard something about assets, and that was all that I grabbed from it. It's really glitchy here.
Hey, Megan, hang on a second. Before we go any further, is it possible for somebody to call her?
Or she can call in here. Does she have a number that she can call in on this?
It's on the agenda.
Okay, so Megan, Kate, can you send her the call-in information?
Yeah, Megan, it's right below the link. There's a dial-in information in the text I sent you. It's that 312 number. So if you want to try that.
Perfect. Okay, so should I just end
Yes.
on the Zoom and just do the dial-in then?
If you don't mind, we want you to have a fair shake at this, and you cutting in and out isn't helping you. So let's do that if we could.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. So while she's calling in, Matt, will you be able to accept it, or how?
We were
does
just
that-
discussing that. We're going to
Oh.
try it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It'll be our first time.
Sorry. Me and my bright ideas.
So I want to move forward. Principal's report. So we kind of covered the issues with the capital budget, but Tammy, I'm going to let you go first because it's easier to see you than turn over and look at Matt. Update on opening a school, and you've got some issues that have come up in Wardsboro, so I'm going to let you kind of brief everybody, let everybody know what's happening, please.
Sure, I don't know if I'm the person to start with because I probably won't be as brief as Matt could be. But I wish I had more positive news to report, but we are off to a bit of a rocky start. here at Wardsboro, unfortunately. A week leading up to school opening, we were really hopeful for a more typical start to our year, bringing students back together under more normal circumstances than last year. But then as the opening got closer, it became more apparent that wasn't really going to be as possible. For example, last minute we decided that although we had hoped to use the lunchroom where all students could eat lunch, we made the decision to have the kids all eat in the classroom. So we needed to, make arrangements for switching duty schedules around and so forth and so on. And then, let's see, so in addition, we, also put in many of the mitigation strategies that worked so well for us last year, just to be on the safe side of things. And then unfortunately, early last week, we learned of individuals potentially being exposed to positive cases outside of school, which then led to positive cases within the learning community. Due to the timing of the exposure, testing results, and possible future exposures with siblings, Bill, the nurses, and I made the really difficult decision to switch students from in-person learning to learning from home. So with that, students in grades pre-K, K, 1, 2, and 5, 6 will be learning from home during this week, so the week of September 20th through the 24th. And then toward the end of the week, we will reassess the situation based on some testing results that we'll be waiting for. And then the 3rd and 4th grade class will have an additional week of learning from home through October 1st. While I realize this is not an ideal situation, we felt that it was the safest possible option at the time and will also afford all the students continuity of learning rather than having half the students in and half the students out while quarantining. So over part of the weekend and then today, teachers were absolute superstars while they planned, prepped, gathered materials, and had everything ready right in time for us to serve lunch. So, which Dover had ready for us, which was also amazing. That's their teamwork in all of this. So all the students have assignments for the week, including specialist assignments, which includes PE, Spanish, music, I believe, in PE, and we're, on the ground, the food's running, and kids are ready to learn at home. And so far, I've had nothing but, positive feedback from families about the decision that we made.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. It sounds like, you got a bad shuffle of the cards, but it sounds like you made lemonade with lemons. So hopefully that will continue. I see Laura wants to ask you a question, and then Mark after her.
So Tammy, I'm sorry to hear about all of that. Thank you and the staff for all your flexibility, families. I'm happy to hear that you've had support. Is that what I heard correctly?
Yes.
Okay, that makes me happy. Considering how much flexibility is required for all of you, I would hate to have you not have support on top of that. How long do what is the range here? What's the shortest range? Is it next week possibly going back, or?
So for the majority of our students, we're hoping to be back in person on Monday.
Okay.
So that would be for the pre-K, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 5th and 6th grade classes.
Yeah.
There might be a couple of students within those groups that might need to be out a couple of additional days.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd and 4th grade class will definitely, well, it's looking like they'll be out until at least October 4th, which would be the Monday.
Okay. And my second question, Tammy, and I don't know if you've had the opportunity to kind of gather this info, but what are we seeing with impacts for families? And specifically, I'm thinking about, had families planned to go back to work, or did they, did childcare needs, or are you aware of any of those kind of issues, and how significant are they?
I am aware of some potting happening, so a bunch of families have been teaming up to have several different kids under their roof while their other families are able to work, and they're taking turns throughout the week.
Okay.
I know of another family that was impacted that, mother had to completely take the week off. Other than that, I don't know of any other specific instances, but definitely people have had to change their plans for the week, unfortunately.
Thank you, Tammy.
You all good, Laura?
Yeah.
Mark, go ahead.
So this is less of a question for Tammy than about the topic of
Mark, you're breaking up. Can you maybe shut your video off? Sorry.
That's okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. The topic is about absences, and given that all schools ADMs are going to be counted second week of October, something along those lines. And our illustrious governor failing to act to protect our schools, should we be writing a letter requesting some sort of action so that other schools aren't in the position of losing resources because they have to have classrooms closed and excuse me, students on quarantine?
I think Mark, do you want to answer it?
I have an opinion about, I think the board was really clear in our support with the administration at our last meeting around a mask mandate. I am 100% open to hearing from the administration if there are other supports that they need or if there are actions that they need us to advocate for at the state level. But I don't know that a mask mandate, I would love to hear if a mask mandate in the schools would have.
I don't think that was Mark's question. I think Mark's question was,
should we write a letter?
No, hang on. Mark's question was the student count. And the student count occurs, and if the students aren't in the school.
Yeah.
But Mark, it's not,
That's not it,
because
yeah.
there's a lot of student absences. It's those students that are registered
In the school.
at that time. So that's not going to affect our student count or the resources that we're eligible to get from the state because of our population or our ADM. That shouldn't be affected. It's those students that are registered. It's not if they're actually in the building sitting at a desk for that day.
Okay.
And we're remote, so that isn't that counting?
No,
as,
no, because
being-
that's part of the problem. Without the state of emergency, we weren't going to be able to count the remote unless something changed, Tammy.
Well, we're calling it learning from home. We're not calling it remote learning, so all the students are learning from home, and each day the teachers will be taking attendance, whether it's via meetings or assignments that are turned in via Google Classroom.
Yeah.
So if Bill needs to do a waiver, he'll have to do that at the end of the year, but he felt 100% sure that these days will certainly count for school days.
Got it.
Okay, so Mark, does that cover your concerns?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. You are coming in a little bit better, but you are still breaking up a little bit.
And then, as far as the kids that are absent, they'll be marked sick if they need to take time off to recover.
That they can't actually participate in the home learning.
If for some reason they're not well enough to do so. That would be an excused sickness.
Mark, are you all set, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Kate, did you have any questions? Go ahead.
I more had a comment that I thought the school acted very responsibly, and I was from a parent perspective, I thought that was very well done, and it was very responsible to keep the learning community safe, because we do have so many sibling webs within the school. I thought that was a very, very smart decision that the administration came to.
And it's a difficult one because, with the board pushing so hard for in-person learning and for, everybody wanting to be safe and staff concerned. So, Tammy, good job. I'd pat you on the back, but you're not here. So here's your virtual pat on the back.
And you guys know I'm a very verbal parent in terms of being, full-time, working from home, working, and now I have 2 learners in the community because I have a pre-K student in addition to a second grader. So it's super challenging, but I mean, their safety, the safety of the staff, like that's super, like we're willing to deal with inconveniences, you know, to keep everybody safe. I think that's the big messaging that I've heard from a lot of folks. Like,
So you've heard positive stuff.
Yes,
Oh.
I have heard positive things, you know, from folks that I've interacted with that say we very much care about the safety of our children and our community, and that's the big takeaway. Like this is hard. It's hard on the kids. It's hard on everybody, but safety is top priority.
Thank you, Kate. Is there anything else on this topic with Tammy? Because I'd like to, I see Megan's over there in the corner, and I don't know if she works or not. Megan, are you still with us?
Yeah, I tried to join in through the phone, but it didn't work. My internet has since come back, and I'm able to hear everybody clearly now. So whenever you get around to me, I'm
No,
here.
let's get you before we lose you again. So I think Kate had a question for you. Let us start with Kate.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to pose to Megan the same question that I posed to the other 2 candidates. So Megan, how do you feel about learning the budgetary process from the school board perspective and all of those elements that we deal with every year? What's your comfort level? Or
I honestly feel very comfortable. I've taken a couple classes down at CCV in like accounting. I'm actually a certified bookkeeper, certified in payroll. I'm also certified in QuickBooks Online, so I feel very comfortable with like numbers and learning those kind of processes, considering I've taken like 4 classes, I think, at this point with that kind of background to it.
excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you all set, Kate?
All set.
Okay. Laura, I know you have a question.
Yep. Megan, thank you for putting your name forward. As Rich said, you know, we're really excited to see so much interest. I'm going to ask you the same questions that I asked the other 2 candidates. If you are appointed to the board, in your role, can you talk a little bit about how you would see your role as a board member interacting with our administration, and in your role as a board member, how you would view interacting with the public?
I feel as though my interactions with administration would be very like comfortable and smooth, considering I do have a relationship built with a lot of the administration, especially at Wardsboro, and I do know some of the teachers, you know, at the Dover School as well. So I feel like very comfortable talking with administration and whatever, you know, needs. I'm also a very outgoing person. I really enjoy talking. It's a passion of mine, and I feel like on the administration level, I would do very well, considering I have those relationships with like a lot of the administration people already. As far as like the public goes, like I said, I am a talker. I enjoy talking, and I feel as though I can clearly like communicate with other people clearly. And back to like my CCV classes, that was another class that I took, was a communications class on like how to get the best, like how to deal with situations where people are upset, how to like find mediocre ground where everybody feels heard and happy, even, you know, if the outcome isn't something they've expected. So I have taken classes on communication before, so I feel very comfortable, you know, in any form of, you know, communication, whether it be between the public or between administration.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
Mark, do you have anything?
Mark's frozen.
No, he's moving.
No, I do not.
Okay,
Sorry.
Dwight, you all set?
No, sir.
So Megan, I guess you said you couldn't hear. So one of the things I was trying to say after I read your letter, and I think I did it justice. I hope you got to hear most of it, but I try to read it word for word. That one of the things is you're appointed by the board until the next special or regular election. So at a minimum, you would have to run for the position for the balance of this position come, sometime between February and May when we have our annual meeting. Is that something you're willing to do?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last thing is, there's two other people. One of them kind of got one of my questions, and then the other one knew what the question was, and he answered it ahead of time. But if you have trouble hearing this, because this is, to me, a very important topic, so if you don't get it all, let me know. But there's a meeting, we're discussing something very important, very controversial, and we have a meeting, and we all discuss it, and we all get our say, and then we have a vote. And the vote's 5-1, and you're the only one who votes against whatever we decide to do, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so how do you deal with that?
I mean, I think that if the situation were to arise like that and I'm the odd man out, I feel that as long as I am able to convey my point of view and have been heard by the other board members, I would feel comfortable changing my vote in order to, I don't want to use the word appease, but if I'm the one person holding everything up, if everybody has heard what I had to say and taken it into consideration, I am willing to, look at my own vote and see, really, really listen to what everybody else has to say and, make the best judgment going forward. And often, more than not, I don't want to be the one who holds something up. But I feel as though, everybody needs to be heard in a situation like that.
Yeah, so where I was kind of going with that is we have the vote and you vote against it. And we have had a lot of votes that are 3-3. We've had some votes which have been, 2-4. We've had votes 1-5. So my question more is, you voted for whatever, and you voted against it, and then let's say the newspaper, because we're very well represented by the newspaper lady who does a great job for us, and she calls you up after the vote and says, hey, I noticed you're the only one that voted against it. Can you, expand on that and tell me why and tell me what you're going to do about that? How would you respond to that?
I would tell this person, it would be best for them to join the next meeting that we had if they wanted more information on like a certain subject. However, at that point, the decision had been made, and ultimately I feel as though the school board had made a decision that was in the best interest of all parties involved, with the mindset of like the children being forefront and firstmost, and taking every action into consideration and made the best choice possible.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Anybody else from the board, any questions? So Megan, what we're going to do is, so not to hold up the meeting, is we're going to go into executive session at the end of the meeting and discuss the 3 candidates, and we'll notify whoever we choose tonight, hopefully, if it doesn't get too late. So you should definitely hear something by tomorrow, okay? Go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, so I see Aaron is still on, and Megan, I would just say there's no way we can appoint all of you to the board. And I would just encourage you, there are other roles, I will guarantee you, in Wardsboro or in the region that could use you, could use your energy and your talents. So I would just encourage you, if you are not one of the two, if you're not the one that we pick, please get involved elsewhere. You're needed.
Nice. Yeah.
And Megan, one of my comments was that, in all 20 some odd years of being on the school board, I've never had to make a decision. I've never been put in a position where we had to make a decision. And I got to be very, very honest. The 3 of you, the 3 candidates, have made this not an easy decision. That's why I said if the meeting ends early.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be an easy decision. So I do appreciate it. And same to you, Aaron. And if the other gentleman is still there, I don't see him. Okay, so thank you. You have a question?
When will you publicly announce the
2025.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
2025.
2025, okay, I'll have to wait a bit.
You got some time.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know when we're gonna make the decision. When we come out of executive session, we have to make that motion, so whenever this goes out.
Okay, thank you.
We would like to be able to tell the people.
Yeah.
Now you made me forget something.
So you might want to wait. Or call Rich tomorrow.
Rich might be getting a call from me. I don't know.
That's fine. I changed my phone number. But I will give it to you before you leave, so you have it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, so you didn't give Matt. You did Tammy, you didn't do
No,
Matt.
we have to get back to that, but we're all good with this. We're gonna do that. Okay, Tammy, you talked about the opening of school, and you talked about your new experience, and we kind of beat that up a little bit. Is there anything else that you need from, anything else you want to tell us as your administrator's, as principal's report?
I can highlight some of the things that we highlighted or that we discussed in the principal's report if you want. It's all pretty much written in there. So one update, a laughter coordinator has been hired, and we're hoping to start programming at the end of September. So we're almost fully staffed, but we are still in desperate need of a school nurse. And I feel extremely fortunate that we had the advice of the West River nurses and their guidance through the situation, because it's really tricky not being a medical expert and navigating through all of this.
Mark was a paramedic. He'll come over and help you. Matt, your turn.
Much less interesting. We've had a really smooth, quiet opening at Dover this year.
So you just got to rub it in, right?
Well, we just know that the time is probably coming, and we're just trying to be prepared for that. But the kids are doing great. The staff is doing great. The parents are doing great. Drop off for the little ones always takes a couple weeks for them to get used to that separation, but they're getting to the point where they're just like, bye mom, bye dad, and they go right in. So that's what we hope for, that independence. The new staff is working out really well. They're getting into the groove. Our new special educator started today, so we're bringing her on board. Also, we are in the same boat as Wardsboro in terms of nursing. We have no nurse at the moment. So we're trying to struggle along with support from the central office, and you got to call the ambulance, I guess, when something bad happens. So otherwise, though, things I think are going pretty well. It's really nice to have a essentially state-of-the-art HVAC. So having Chris Medina jump on that so soon when this all first happened is really paying off, because we have a wonderful system that's working in place now, and people, I think, have confidence in it. The one unit that Greg mentioned is in the staff lunchroom, which essentially gets no use at the moment because staff eat lunch in their classrooms with kids. And like Tammy said, we shifted kind of at the last minute to having lunch in the classrooms on the recommendation of the COVID coordinator, which shifted our duty schedule quite a bit, but again, people reacted quickly. Most of our fall benchmarking is being finished up this week, so we get a better sense of where any learning gaps are, particularly over the summer with summer loss, and make comparisons to where kids ought to be and see if there's any big deficits that we have to be filling. So those assessments will finish up this week and next week, and we'll start analyzing that data and swooping in to provide solutions for those gaps. We're super excited about our academic support team this year. We have 2 full-time people dedicated to that. You heard Lori mention earlier that we had a big surplus because we couldn't find somebody for the second position last year. So having those 2 folks on staff, we think, will be a big boost to getting back on our feet from COVID and from remote learning, and we're looking forward to that. Otherwise, there's some interesting things in the report. I don't know if you guys have any questions, but I don't want to go through and read all that because you've probably seen it all.
So, is there any questions for Matt or Tammy? And if not, we'll move forward. Go ahead, Laura.
No question. I just wanted to say thank you for including us on the communications. It's just nice to stay, it's a nice way to kind of feel like I'm still like in touch with the community, with the school community, with the kids, particularly not having kids in. And so
You're welcome.
great communications going out, and it's nice to see those. So thank you for doing that.
Okay. Who's Dana's?
Dana's a parent, Dover parent.
Okay. Hey, I guess Dana and Valerie, I don't know, Valerie, who you are. If you could just kind of do your last name.
Valerie's our 3-4 teacher. in
Oh,
Brattleboro.
okay.
Yeah.
Just so Peter has it. Dana, do you have any questions, comments, anything? You've been through sitting with us for a while. I didn't know if there's any questions, comments, answers.
She comes.
Okay, thank you. Valerie or Tricia, you got any questions, comments, thoughts?
I would just want to say kudos to them for just, hanging in there yesterday and today and getting things ready for all of the families. They did a fantastic job, and they put their nose to the ground, and kids have what they need to do what they need to do at home. So, great job.
Thank you, guys. Don't come on, you may be bright red.
We really appreciate it, from a board perspective, but then also from a parent perspective, it's very much appreciated, and it was a total scramble. And thankfully, like I said, Bill and Tammy made the decision early on in the weekend, so that the teachers, they pulled it together, and we have packets. It's crazy. It's awesome and phenomenal. That's a quick pivot, so that's really phenomenal on that whole team.
Thank you, Kate. Mark, you had your hand up too, sir?
Two quick things. One, I just want to repeat or agree with what Laura said. And Tammy, thank you very much for keeping us in the loop. It's really much appreciated. Tammy, I apologize to you. There is no policy on bidding. What I was thinking of was a capital assets policy, so you can ignore what I said earlier.
Yeah, I thought we had done away with it too, but I forgot to bring the big book. So thank you, Mark, for that. Mark, I know before we move on, you were supposed to have a policy committee meeting for the 9th or something. Did that get canceled?
It did. We will be meeting the second Friday of October.
Okay. Superintendent.
Correction. Sorry, Kate?
Yeah, do you remember what day we moved it to? Because I couldn't do the second Friday. Hang on, let me pull it from my account.
I'll let you know before the meeting's over what the date and time was.
Okay, Mark, you can just, at the end of the meeting, let's just announce that so people know.
I will. Thank you.
October 7th at 11 a.m.
There you go.
Okay.
Thursday, October 7th.
Peter, make sure that's in the minutes, please. Okay, sir. Superintendent's report. The superintendent isn't here. So there was a written report. If anybody has any questions, let me know. He did his monthly cabinet report. September 29th, WCSU retreat. So Mark, thinking about that, if we appoint somebody tonight, they don't become a member until they get sworn in by the clerk. So it wouldn't be till the next meeting we could reorganize. So we will need to, Mark and I and Rick were the voting representatives at the meeting. So Rick is gone, so I'd like to at least appoint a temporary person for the next meeting, which we're allowed to do. So, hey, Kate and Laura and Dwight, gotta be one of you guys. Next Wednesday, it's virtual as well as in person, where you get fed and you can actually have a beer or a drink or a glass of wine.
Really? Looking for volunteers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll volunteer.
Okay, somebody make a motion
Me
quick.
too.
Kate?
Time's running.
I nominate Dwight to stand in for the WCSU meeting on September 29th.
Second.
And Laura seconded it. Thank you, Kate. Peter, do you got that okay? Okay, sir. If there's no discussion, everybody but Dwight in favor say aye.
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 Aye. You won, Dwight.
All right.
There you go,
It's not
buddy.
so hard.
That's a unanimous decision. We wouldn't let you vote against yourself. Solar, moving forward with the Dover partnership. Laura, I'm gonna pick on you a little.
Okay.
Mark, I don't think you were around. I know we went with the solar. The reason we went with the company we did was because there was 2 rates given to us by the 2 companies that bid on it. One of them said 10% savings and the other said 15. And I very well remember Chip sitting there saying, well, 15 is better than 10. So let's go with this other group. And then when we had to get the partners in there, we went to the town and the fire district. So we had the 3 of us, the school, the town, fire district, use enough electricity. So the deal we made with them was we would get 5 of the 15%, so they would get a 10%, and the school would get our 15% plus 5% of the town and the fire district. I guess that never really happened. So
What do you mean?
we're not getting their 5% that we were supposed to get.
So that's a transactional problem
I-
within the town of Dover?
I don't know what it is. So,
Okay.
I don't know if people remember, there's been a little upheaval at the fire district, and there's been a change of the town members, because remember Randy Turk was the one that was involved in this with us. I do believe Vicky remembered it. But anyways, I've asked Bill to look into this and see if he could take care of that for us. But the other thing that's happened is in the interim, the solar people are trying to sell the lease. And they need us to approve signing the lease for the new, so that the lease can transfer. So I would like to make a motion. Now, I know Bill was supposed to check with an attorney, and I don't know where that all stood. So I think what I would like to do, if everybody's okay, is allow the chair to sign the lease as long as the attorney says it's okay to sign. And it's not called a lease. What was it, an estoppel or?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of this.
Okay, and I thought I had it with me and I can't find it.
So
Yes, Laura.
I feel pretty strongly that we do need to have an attorney look over this and have a pretty good analysis of what, how that might impact rates.
Yeah, I don't think it impacts rates. It doesn't change anything at all. All it changes is that there's another company that owns the property, not the land, but the equipment on the land. And when we signed that we would, not withhold the ability for them to transfer ownership as long as nothing changed, and nothing's changed. The 15% versus 10% it just came to the forefront because I thought it was happening, and Chip had taken care of it, and Chip supposedly transferred everything to Marco, and Marco didn't know anything about it. So we're gonna work on that part of it, but I do believe that I believe we have to sign that because I don't think we have a choice.
So it's just transfer between, it's the exact same terms.
Yes.
And how long is the lease?
They're only getting the balance of the lease. I
Which is-
think it was 25 years to begin with. And then, or it's 25 and they have like one renewal. And I don't recall that, and I don't have it, and again, I thought Bill was coming, I thought Bill had it all.
But nothing's changing other than the ownership, the
Right,
terms and everything else.
Right, none of the terms change, it's just that instead of Dwight owning it, now Laura owns it.
So your concern, it sounds like your concern is fixing the internal problem that we have before we
Correct.
sign the lease.
That's separate from the lease.
It just brought it up.
Yeah,
When this came up,
yeah.
and I wanted to make sure it wasn't gonna affect that, and I guess it hadn't been doing what I thought it was doing. I don't think we're getting the
Yeah.
extra,
That's a separate issue from the lease.
right.
Okay.
But I wanted to just bring that up because a lot of people didn't even know we had a lease on the solar thing. They thought we owned it.
So I move that we authorize the chair to sign the lease transfer once the attorney has reviewed that action.
Says it's okay.
Yeah.
I'd second that.
Okay, so Laura made a motion to allow the chair to sign it once the attorney says there's no changes for us.
Yeah.
Dwight seconds it. Kate or Mark, you have any thoughts, comments, questions? No, Mark, you're okay? Okay. Not yet, Mark. You gotta wait a second to vote. All those in favor say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. It's a unanimous decision. I'll be calling the newspaper tomorrow to tell them that I didn't like the decision. Okay, other than that, Mark, old business, the website. So there was a little snafu with the RFP in that we thought it had gone out in a certain format, and I guess it didn't. So Mark, you want to just bring us up to speed?
Yeah, so it was supposed to have been put to a statewide business our website. And there was some combination of confusion and problems at the central office, and it didn't get posted. So the only places that it did get posted was the Reformer and the Commons. We got one response, and the problems with getting it posted to the biz site have been resolved. And I believe, Kate and I have reviewed the proposal.
Hey, Mark, shut your picture off, please.
Separately, I'm not coach. Yes, you don't like to see me?
No, you were breaking up really
Can you hear me
bad.
now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. What have you heard? Should I start from the beginning?
There was one company that submitted a proposal, I guess is the last I heard.
Because there was a hard time getting it posted to the website, the RFP.
Okay, so, yes, so we received one proposal, which Kate and I have evaluated separately. And I believe, at least my recommendation is going to be that we extend the response period so that we can get it posted to the site that we intended to have it posted to, which is the site from which Dover had received 50 responses for their bid, for their RFP. I'll just start. The bid we got, there are a number of problems with it, and I would be uncomfortable recommending that we go with it.
So would you be comfortable, Mark, making a motion to extend it and giving us a date, and then making sure we have Matt and Tammy make sure it gets posted to the right site?
Absolutely will. I'd just like to hear from Kate on her opinion of the proposal we did get first.
I did a quick review of the proposal. I haven't gone super in depth with it. I think there were a lot of great things about it, but there were a couple red flags. I would just really love to have more than one, to be able to compare and contrast and see what the best fit is. I mean, if the town of Dover had a dozen or more, I'd love to be able to go through that many. That would be wonderful. So I'd love to extend it.
So I will make a motion that we extend the response period to September 30th and have, would actually be Meg, posted to the biz site, which she now has access to.
Mark, is that long enough before we have a second? That's only a week away, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh,
It's a week
Right.
and a half away.
Yeah.
Week and 2 days.
we're going to meet twice in October.
I hope to. That's something else we're going to discuss.
Does anybody have a calendar in front of them? Can you tell me what the third Monday?
I do. So the third Monday is the 18th.
18th.
So do it like the Wednesday before, Mark, so you can have them to look at over the weekend to kind of talk to us. That would be my preference if you could.
I was going to say October 14th.
That seems really fast.
Well, it's been out there. It just, people thought that they couldn't put it in. So I think the thought is, Mark, is the thought that people would have seen it and then just thought that, and now you're going to...
It got posted for a day or so with a September 30th date due to miscommunications. And we have had a few inquiries as to whether or not those people could put in a bid. We've got to strike a balance between getting this in and started and leaving enough time for the bid process. I'm comfortable. Today's what, the 20th? That's 3 weeks. I'm comfortable with 3 weeks.
Kate, are you comfortable with 3 weeks? Laura?
Sure. I mean, I think you probably need, I have always had probably 6 weeks on a RFP thing.
So the only, if you wanted to...
But I think it's fine, but RFPs go out like this all the time. I'm fine with going on with this. So Mark's been working on this, I'm fine with going forward.
Mark, the only other thing, if we wanted to extend it, then we would be into November, the first meeting in November, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, is that gonna, again, like Kate's comment, she'd like to have more than one piece. I guess she's bored. She's not having enough time to teach the kids.
I don't think she said that.
So I don't know if she wants a lot more proposals, but would it make sense to put it off and review it at the first meeting in November? And then you could give people, you could give your guys maybe a week and a half to do it and make it the middle of November. The middle of October to get it in.
Well, we did, the 14th is the middle of October.
No, we're going to review it at the end. Instead of reviewing it at the last meeting in October, we review it the first meeting of November, and that gives you guys a little extra time to review it and to make a recommendation to us.
All right, we can make it. We could. I'll change my motion since I don't think it's been seconded yet to extend the response date to October 18th.
And we'll discuss it at that first in November.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Kate, any comments?
No comments.
Would you like to second it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'd like to second.
Peter, do you have the motion made by Mark and the second by Kate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The decision passes unanimously. I gotta make one comment, Kate. I'm really a little upset that you're in Wardsboro and Mark's in Dover, and you seem to have better internet because we can keep seeing you, but we have to keep telling Mark to turn his video off. I don't get it, Mark. You must have something else running there. Do you need a tech person to come up and help?
He's way out.
I need Consolidated to know how to do their job.
Oh, don't get going there. We'll be here all night.
Rich, can I just make an unrelated, really quick comment?
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to let, especially the board members, know that the reason I'm not coming to meetings, it won't be for a while, is that my mother is immunocompromised, and I need to be able to visit her, so I'm being extra careful these days.
Yeah, you don't have to explain it, Mark. That's why we're having these meetings, so.
I just wanted to let people know.
Okay, so on that topic, folks, I brought up that I'm a little concerned that, we're trying to be very, very careful in the schools, and that usually we meet in the schools, and I would prefer not to have us go into schools because, actually with the three of us, Dwight, Laura, and I that are together tonight, there's no reason for us to ever go into the school. We don't have kids in there. We don't need to go in there unless, it's nice to go in and see what's happening occasionally and to talk to the administrators. what I would like to do is I'd like to, from now until we decide to change, I'd like to recommend that we not meet in the schools. The one problem that creates, and I guess unless we go to Kate's house, is that we did try, if you all remember, Tammy, myself, and the district clerk, Andy McLean, met at the Wardsboro Town Hall to hold the informational meeting, and we froze up, and you guys were probably happy because I shut up for a while, but it made it very difficult because we didn't have a clue what was going on. We do have good internet here. I tried to get everything I needed, and being not the technological person, I guess there's some hookup we need that Tabby's going to work on for us. I know we've talked about moving the meetings between the two towns, and that's important. But if we're still doing the hybrid meetings, unless somebody knows of a good spot in Wardsboro that has good high-speed internet, I'd like to maybe suggest that we have our meetings at the town hall, at least for the next couple months.
At the Dover Town Hall?
The Dover Town Hall. But again, if we can find a good place in Wardsboro, I don't mind traveling to Wardsboro. I'm not sure. Somebody thought maybe like the library has.
The library does have really good internet, but I don't know if they'll be open.
And are we allowed to use it?
Right.
They're not open, that's kind of nice.
And remember too, we have to turn the camera on yourself and wave. No. We got a new Rich, the old Rich retired, so my goal is to have him on camera here before the next two meetings is up. So anyways, does anybody have a problem with that? And I'd like to also, I'm sorry everybody from the public, but I'd like to hear from our press lady and the other people that are on here. Does anybody see that as an issue? Does anybody think that it's going to create hate and discontent? Or do you think we'll be okay? Don't everybody jump at once, Dwight.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kate.
As a member of the Wardsboro community, from my personal perspective, the Zoom is more important to me than you guys being in a physical Wardsboro location. And I agree that we should not be in the schools at this point. I think the Wardsboro community is feeling a little protective right now of our kids, so I don't want to be in that school. So I'm okay with just doing it remotely. And if Dover Town Hall is the best place for the internet versus the Wardsboro Town Hall, I'm okay with that until we discuss this again.
Okay, and just as a follow-up, and I'll get to the next gentleman, with the state of emergency, we were allowed to hold totally remote meetings. But now that the state of emergency's been lifted, we have to have a live location for people to come to. So we are required to at least, now it can just be that me and the camera guy can be here by ourselves, but one of us, somebody from the board has to be in a physical location that's open to the public. So that's why we do have to do this. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
It doesn't actually have to be somebody from the board, just has to be somebody that represents the board.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be there if we're having a live meeting. I think somebody from the board should be there also. Just so they don't think we're all robots or what are those things, avatars or something.
Oh my God, I love him.
Mark, Kate, you're okay, Kate?
I'm good.
Laura, Dwight, do you want to comment?
Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. As long as, if we have to have a location, we should pick the best one. The most important part, just like Kate said, is to have it available, virtually. So we're doing that, and if that makes the most sense, then we should continue.
The one thing I would like, Rich, is if we could have in the minutes, a reflection that as soon as it's safe to, I think it is really important for us to go back to the schools. And so something like, we could just, who knows how long this is going to last. So.
And not, Mark, I'm not throwing this at you, but the other thing is if we want to keep doing the hybrid meetings, which we agreed as a board was a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if we didn't do the hybrid and we just want to go back to recording it, we could go to the Wardsboro Town Hall and have a meeting there, but either wouldn't be, if we don't do the hybrid, we can't allow just board members to call in or come in. You know, we have to open it up to, it's an all or nothing proposition, so that's the only other thing that people need to understand. It's
Thank
not
you.
that we want to avoid a town or an area, it's just, it's difficult. And Mark has said too, and I don't know how you folks, maybe Tricia and you guys can weigh in on the TV. Well, Tricia should be just down the road. Hopefully her internet's working good, not like Mark's. You know, how are the acoustics work and how has this setup worked for you guys?
Not as bad as meetings that the secretary held in there. We can hear. Laura's a little hard to hear, depending on which direction she's speaking, but everybody is.
Because I'm looking away from the microphone at the screen and away from the camera.
Right.
It's very disorienting.
It's interesting. There's one little speaker kind of between Dwight and I, and then there's two little microphones, one close by Matt and one by Laura. So if she is looking at the screen, she is in, and then the masks don't help.
This is a control center here, by just so you guys know. So I think we're gonna have a space launch pretty soon.
So anybody else want to make a comment, or are we ready to vote?
Ready to vote. Do you want a motion? Do you have a motion?
Please.
I move that until such time as the board deems it safe to return to the schools, we hold our hybrid meetings with the in-person location being at the Dover Town Hall.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
I'll second.
We're going to give it to Dwight, Mark, because he's here in person.
Oh, jeez.
Peter, do you have that motion? Okay, thank you, Peter.
Pete looks like he's like in some kind of.
Hey, and then also, just so it's on the recording, if somebody in Wardsboro comes up with a good public location that we can use too, just please let us know. I wasn't aware. I talked to Tammy just so I could have some, you know, so I could know if like the library wants to let us use theirs and they can let us set up and have the recording gentleman there, you know, that's what we need. So, do you have a question? You all? Oh. Okay, if there's no more discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 It's a unanimous decision. Thank you, folks. I have, Mark, you had one more thing you said, or was?
No, I don't think so. Nope, we took care of the WCSU. That's it.
Okay, can you give us a 30 to 60 second overview of the weighting study? And then Laura can have the same amount of time. And if I put you on the spot, you can say no.
No, I think Laura's probably in the, well, from the coalition's perspective, September 8th, the task force held a public hearing at which there were 40 people who spoke, and all 40 spoke in favor of implementing the weights, implementing them now, and not using categorical aid in place of the weights. So that was a relatively good day. The task force met the following Monday, and to put it simply, they are leaning very heavily towards using categorical aid. We are in a kind of full court press to try to sway them back towards using the weights as recommended in the report. We have commercials going out on radio stations all across the state. We have a lot of information on our website, WCSU.org. There's a second public hearing that will be held October 20th, and people can sign up on our website to be notified excuse me, when that registration opens up. The task force meets again on October 8th So we are asking people to communicate with their legislators, communicate with members of the task force, and we have a list of those members on our website, to let them know that that they want the weights implemented. Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, no, we're still hearing you, Mark.
I thought I heard myself there for a second. That was a little shocking. That they want the weight implemented, and that they don't want the state to categorical aid. The use of categorical aid in place of the weights does not write that weight again. It would be a tax increase on top of what is already being paid by all communities, including those that need the resources the most. And it would become a political football down the road. So we are fighting hard against that. I'll let Laura take it from there. Laura did a phenomenal job of pushing back against Public Assets Institute, their testimony at the task force hearing a week ago today. So I just, Laura, thank you. You really did a great job. And put them in their place. Let's put it that way.
I'm not banking on that yet. So I think if I could, Rich, just really simply to make sure that everybody understands the concept. Right now we have a finite set of resources that come together to educate all of our students throughout the whole state. And with the weights not being calibrated correctly, we are not accounting for the differences in cost to educate different types of students. So when we calibrate the weights correctly, and we have this $300,000 report that the legislature asked for and threatened to sue the administration to get, and so we have this report that has been, this analysis that's been held up, peer-reviewed. When we correct the weights using that, it does not increase the size of the education spending in the state, okay? It recalibrates it so that more resources are going to the students with more needs, with students with poverty, ELL, rural, and sparsity. So in that case, you have large and wealthy districts who will be faced with with some pretty tough choices, as we saw during Act 60. So there will either need to be changes in budgeting or increases in taxes. When you try and solve the notion that we've been underfunding our neediest kids, if you try and solve that problem and not have our large and wealthiest districts have to make those types of choices, whether to trim their budgets or increase their taxes, the only way to do that is with a pretty significant tax increase, okay? And that is categorical aid. So you've got this pie over here, and if we were to do rather than getting funds to needy students by fixing the weights, we were to bring in additional resources, it would have to be a lot of additional resources, which means much higher tax rates. On top of that, the legislature does not have information that would help it, that tells it how to award categorical aid so that we've hit equity. And in fact, the legislature's fiscal analysts have said that categorical aid is completely outside of the equity calculation. And so this, so that's that.
Laura, one more part of that too.
Yes.
So instead of fixing the weights, and you bring more money into
Yeah.
so that you can bring these weights where they need to be,
Yeah.
you're also giving even more to these weights that have been overweighted for years.
Well, everybody's paying for it. So the rural districts would pay for it, the poverty districts. everybody will pay rather than saying, okay. And I don't think there are a lot of Vermonters saying, we're not spending enough money on education. That is not something I've heard. It may in fact be the case, that we find after we fix these weights. So the other piece that I will say that's consequential, last year, we did pause the excess spending penalty and the threshold. That penalty and that threshold is a very important cost containment measure. We paused it because we weren't getting enough resources to rural and poor and ELL students, and so we needed them to be able to access additional resources without penalty. If we don't fix the weights, so if nothing happens, which is one of three possibilities, we fix the weights, we do this categorical aid, which is a property tax increase, or nothing happens, nothing happening is almost certainly going to be a property tax increase because there's no cap on anyone's spending. So we need action. We need the weights to be fixed. There's a lot of funds in the state of Vermont, so there's a tremendous opportunity to create some smoothing for districts that will be most heavily impacted. So that's it.
Which is very similar to when they brought Act 60 in.
Exactly.
That there was a grace period of 3 years before it was fully implemented, which allowed districts to adjust and to fix it. And I just want one other thing, and I'll get to you in 1 second, Mark. Both Mark and Laura have mentioned ELL, and in certain businesses, who knows what that means, but when you hear ELL in education and on school boards and in government talking about education funding, it's English language learners, students. It used to be called English as a second language, ESL, English as a second language. And just they want to change things to confuse us every few years. So Mark, I want to try not to spend a whole much more time, so you can be short and brief because we've got more stuff to do tonight as a board.
This will be quick. Laura said something that reminded me that there are an awful lot of funds kind of floating out there. Floating's the wrong word, but there are a lot of funds in the education system right now, federal funds. So we are asking the task force and legislature to use some of those funds to help smooth out, make the transition easier for the current overweight districts. That being said, the Speaker of the House and the Pro Tem are holding a series of meetings in, I think, one in each county, asking people for their thoughts and ideas on how to spend the funds coming into the state. Not specifically about the education funds, but the ARPA funds in general. So it would be great to have people go to these meetings and suggest that they use those funds to help smooth out the transition for these overweight districts. If anybody needs any information about these meetings, I'm more than happy to send that along.
Mark, do you know when Windham County's is? Laura, I think, is looking it up.
Off the top of my head, I do not.
I'll have it in a
Okay,
second.
Laura will have that for us in a second. Are you good, Mark?
I am, thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else while Laura's looking that up?
Did I have the website, Mark? You were garbled when you said the website, where all that was.
Yeah, it's CVTSE, Charlie Victor Tango Sam Edward.org.
Oh, that's your image.
On the screen.
Yes. I was logged into the wrong account when I started the Zoom call.
Yeah.
Okay, Laura's got the meeting in Windham County too.
So this is a virtual meeting, and it is Tuesday, September 28th, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. You need to register in order to get the Zoom link, and for those of you, I'm certain that it is on the speaker's website. It's also on my website, or in my last update, the link. And I don't know if you have it, but I'll send it to you, Matt, Tammy.
Thank you.
Okay, is everybody good? Okay, I think I have two executive session items. One is discuss appointing a board member, and the second one is we have a contractual, a personnel contractual issue from the superintendent we need to discuss. So I don't know how this is gonna work, because I need you to leave your stuff on, but I need you to go away.
Actually, I think I can just kick you to the waiting room and we'll keep this part on.
Where's the waiting room?
Well, we need to come back out. We need to come back out of executive session though, too.
Right, and then we'll bring him back
Say
in. From,
D-bag?
yeah, right. Stop recording, yeah.
Okay, well, before you do that, are you all set?
Can I get your phone number?
Yeah.
Here, I
That-
can
that
write it
didn't
down so I
sound
don't have
right.
to say it out loud.
No,
I meant so I can call you about questions.
I know. Just, I'm gonna get in trouble for that one. Okay, so I got two executive session items, so I need somebody to make a motion to go into executive session for those two things.
So moved.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it to Laura moved and Dwight seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Hi.
Tammy, you need to stay. Peter, I will ask Matt to just email you what happens, what time we come out and stuff. If you just get the time we're going in, which is 8:15.
Thank you. Everyone, please send me details of your website stuff and anything you want in the minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. Megan, thank you for coming in. Okay, let's stop recording and let's go into executive session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we had two items to discuss. We had, item number one was a contractual issue for personnel.
And I move that we authorize the superintendent to work with the union on a side letter to cover excess side duties for the school year.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Dwight seconds it. Motion's made. Dwight seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Uh-oh.
What? Oh.
My computer just died.
Jeez.
Do you have them all there?
You on?
You're still recording, right?
We're here.
No. Okay.
Me. But my computer just died. I'm just gonna not touch it, let you finish the meeting.
Yeah, we're still
Okay.
here. Looks like.
Okay, so that's a unanimous decision. And I don't know if I said by unanimous consent, we came out of executive session at 8:35. So we approved the superintendent to enter into this, a side agreement, side letter, to cover duties this year because of the issues created around COVID. The next thing is we also went into executive session to discuss our three very highly qualified and very good candidates to take Rick's place on the school board.
So, let me turn my video off so you can hear me. I will move that we appoint Chad Starro to the position on the board from Woodsboro.
Okay, so I have a second to that.
I'll second.
Okay, so Dwight seconded, Mark moved that we appoint Chad Starro. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it sounds like a unanimous decision. I will, I'm going to make some phone calls when we get out to all three candidates, thanking them and letting them know we made a decision.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay, is there anything else? We meet again a week from Wednesday at the Colonel Williams Inn.
The where, what?
It's
Colonel
in-
Williamson, it's on Marlboro.
It's in Marlboro on Route 9,
Oh,
just
that's
a little bit
convenient.
east of the school.
Oh, I know where that is.
Mark,
What time, do you know?
you're gonna be there
Yeah.
virtually, right?
I will be there virtually, yep.
Do you
Okay,
know what time?
it's, what time, Mark, 6? 5:30?
The mingling starts at 5, the meeting starts at 6.
But the dinner starts like, I think, 5:30.
This is on the 29th?
29th, right, Mark?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right.
The thing,
It's the
our
28th.
next meeting is October
October 4th.
4th, 6 p.m.
6
here.
p.m.
You good for that? We're gonna see you then? Okay. And what else? That's it, right?
We're so excited to see that public participation. It's so
Yay.
important for our small towns. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain the most important motion of the night.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Laura. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good job.